Hello, people. How you doing today? I just want to break some news. Um, when Gene Borrello went to prison originally, when he was put back in for violation, it was said that he was going to be out in 6 months. That's changed. And let me explain one thing to people. My job is to come here and report this to you. My job is not to hate Gene Borrello and wish that he's in prison for a long time. So that's what I'm doing. I'm reporting it to you. I'm not taking no sides on this. And you guys decide what you want to do. But it seems like everything in Florida is going to catch up to Gene. You know, when this whole thing first came down, they weren't sure what the prosecution was going to do. But it's just been decided that the prosecution has decided to go after Gene on all the new charges. The ones he's going to be hit with 12 violations from Florida. And I'm going to read the article. This is from Jerry Capisci. Jerry Capisci broke it. I'm just putting it on here on YouTube so you know exactly what's going on. Jerry Capisci has a great site. I'm using his article, his story. He has a great encyclopedia in there. If you want to join it, have a blast. But I got to shout him out because this is from his channel. I'm sorry, not his channel, from his site. So with that, let me put this up here, and then I am going to read it to you and tell you exactly what's going on with Gene. And just so you know, Gene, as you know, he broke some. He was down on probation in Florida. New York let him go there. He had an opportunity to get his life together, but while he was down there, he did a lot of things that are kind of now coming back to haunt him. We don't know how bad they're going to haunt him because in the end, everything's up to the judge. You know, this might go to trial, and we don't know yet, unless they reach some kind of plea deal, or Gene might just decide to take it to trial. So that's going to be interesting to see too. So I'm going to read you the article now, and you guys can make your own decision. Okay. So here's what it says, people. Feds, we're prosecuting mob turncoat liar for all 12 Sunshine State violations. That means the ones including with his girlfriend, she's come forward and is now defending him, but they are still going after him on them because you cannot, stalking charges cannot be dropped if the police don't want to drop them. In a way, Gene may have lucked out because he's not being prosecuted by the state of Florida. He's being prosecuted by the feds for violation of his probation. If he was, if Florida decided to hit him on those charges, you people from Florida know it probably would have been much harder on him because right now he's looking at 2.5 to 3 years, possibly. Federal prosecutors have decided to try one more time to convince a judge that turncoat gangster Gene Borrello belongs back in prison for at least 2.5 more years of breaching the court's trust over and over again. The reasoning, for starters, they say Borrello is a liar who has committed crime after crime since he got out of prison in 2019 and deserves far longer sentence than the 6 months that the judge doled out to the former cooperating witness last month. At the proceeding, Judge Frederick Block fumed that Borrello's antics have made the judge look foolish and like a sucker for believing the tales Borrello told the court, but letting them off that steam. The judge gave him just a half a year behind bars while allowing that he would be revisiting the situation if the feds insisted on filing the new charges, and they have. And they seem to have done so. Assistant U.S. Attorney Matthew Gigliotti informed Block in a court hearing last week that the government intends to pursue all 12 violations of supervised release charges, including extortion, stalking, domestic abuse, burglary allegations that were filed against Borrello while he was in Florida. 7 were lodged on September 12th, 2022. 5 were filed January 20th on 2023. The specific allegations and their sentence guidelines are sealed, but Gigliotti cited many details about the new VOSRs, that's violations of probation. The 3rd and 4th set of the probation department has filed against Borrello since he was released from prison. In a sentence memo in which he asked Block to send the former Bonanno family associates back to prison for 3 years. After moving to Florida, Gigliotti wrote Borrello engaged in repeated violent and aggressive conduct with 2 separate victims, and he discussed the use of firearms in tape talks. He personally used controlled substances. He lied to the court and probation, and he was demonstrated to the court how we will treat the second, third, and fourth chance if he was given that. Block agreed with Gigliotti and was allowed to consider that info was relevant conduct before imposing the sentence. But he stated that he wouldn't because Borrello claimed he was innocent. Block said he'd deal with them at a later hearing, noting 3 times that he'd be surprised if Gigliotti decided to prosecute all the allegation, twice misstated as 15 charges. So basically, the prosecution wanted to hit him with 15 charges, and they were told that it was not 15 charges, it was 12 charges. I think the judge was hoping that the prosecution wouldn't hit him with any more, but the prosecution at this point is so pissed. He's humiliated them, embarrassed them. He's put videos up on them, gave them the fingers, called them stupid. And now they're at the point now where they do not want to deal with Gene anymore. They want to put him in jail for a couple more years. I don't think 15 charges necessarily are warranted here, Block said at one point. After making the same point a second time, the judge told Gigliotti that he was going to have to really decide what he wanted to what you want to go to trial on. You're going to advise me on May 9th hearing date as to which of those many charges the government really wishes to pursue. Block told prosecutors at another point, reminding him to make sure he gave Borrello's lawyer all disclosure info she was entitled to. Many of the charges that Gigliotti laid out in his sentence memo concerned stalking, domestic abuse allegations against Borrello's then girlfriend. When the woman told Borrello that she was going to call the police after they got in an argument, he manhandled her, grabbed her cell phone, smashed it on the ground, and stomped it, the prosecutor wrote. Both crimes, simple battery and tampering with witnesses, were committed in the Middle District of Florida, despite the fact that on May 2022, Borrello never received permission to leave the Eastern District of New York. So when the crimes were committed down there, he was supposed to be in New York, and they didn't know he was in Florida. That's another charge in itself. In July, the police responded to another argument between Borrello and his girlfriend, who then obtained an order of protection against Borrello in a local court. Borrello was arrested on September 8th, 2022, for violating an order of protection she had filed against him. The prosecutor wrote, then he went through her cellular telephone without her permission and later called and texted her continuously, Gigliotti said, noting that the defendant contacted the victim 58 times between 1:41 and 2:08 p.m. That's a 28-minute period. On October 23rd, his girlfriend told police that she was fearful of Borrello yet another domestic incident which had taken place 2 days earlier. It's hard to fathom Borrello, whose 2 prior VOSRs included threats against a former girlfriend from Howard Beach and a family member getting a pass on stalking and domestic abuse allegation involving the Florida paramour from Block. The judge chided Borrello about them at his last sentence. So basically, it's hard to believe that the judge is going to let this go because this happened once before in New York, and now it's happened in Florida. The judge will look kind of foolish if he doesn't do something. How much time he's going to give him, who knows? Maybe they'll decide to give him 5 years probation, 3 years probation, or even put something on his ankle. Who knows what the courts? Gene seems to have been very lucky up to this point. It seems like a lot of this has finally caught up with him. The girlfriend thing, it's going to be on the basis of those other charges, said Blocks. It looks like a love-hate relationship. You beat her up, the judge continued. You have anger management problems and all sorts of terrible things, Block said. But she loves you. She forgives you. She knows she's a battered woman, the judge says. But predicted but predicted what a judge will do is risky business. During the same sentence session, after Block said that he wanted to make a final decision on the new Florida-based probation violations that Borrello faces during the 6-month stretch that he is serving now. So pretty much he's going to be sentenced before he gets out of prison in 6 months. So Gene has no idea what's going on, which kind of sucks when you're in prison and you know you're going to be facing more charges and you don't know how much longer you got to stay in prison. During the same sentence session, said Block said he wanted to make the final decision of the new charges during his time served. I just read that. It may be more. It may be more. I'm not in a position to make a judgment today, but we have to process it and get beyond this. So he's pretty much saying, the judge is saying it may be more time. When a judge says it may be more time, I think it's going to be more time because the judge is pushed in the corner because Gene's embarrassed him a few times now. Okay. The Florida-based allegations include tape recording talks in which Borrello discussed buying guns. He also used steroids, threatened a bartender and others who crossed him, Gilotti wrote. Borrello also used a second cell phone to keep the feds from monitoring his illicit activities and lied to probation officials about second phone and numbers and other things, the prosecutor wrote. The alleged transgressions continued all year and into 2023. On December 10th, Borrello was arrested on burglary charges in Pinellas County. The prosecutor wrote, and on January 11th, 2023, Gilotti wrote, the defendant was again arrested in Pinellas County by the police department for stalking. So you're looking at burglary, stalking. I think Gene is very lucky because he's going to have to be facing these charges in court with the feds. Judge Block has already been good to him many times, has given him lots of breaks. Who knows what the judge is going to do this time? Who knows what's going to happen with Gene in the 6 months that he's going to be locked up now? His behavior, fighting. If he was wise, he wouldn't get into any trouble. And he doesn't have any history of trouble in prison, so of fighting and stuff, or getting violations. So he probably will stay out of it. He wants to get out of prison, it's obvious. But his life might be tied up there for 2.5 years, 3 years possibly. It's going to be up to the judge. In my opinion, I think the judge throws another 6 months to a year at him. Maybe not. They're going to offer the put him on probation. And Gene told me that he'd rather be doing 6 months, even a year, than go on 2 or 3 years probation or have to wear a bracelet. Because when you wear a bracelet, you can't do nothing. You got to go to work and home. And then when you do these other things, you're going to have to go into probation. If you commit more crimes on probation, each time it gets steeper. I mean, he can wind up doing 10 years in prison if he stays on probation. It's can he stop committing crimes? Unfortunately, Gene has proven over the last several years that he can't stop committing crimes. And they're not mob crimes. They're crimes that people do that are not mobsters. When you hit your girlfriend, go after your girlfriend, threaten your girlfriend, burglaries, drugs, and stuff like that, or even weapons. That's stuff that the average everyday criminal does. And, this is what he's doing right now. He's been doing it his whole life, people. I'm not sure if he could stop doing it. He's been given every opportunity to get his life together. What's going to happen with Gene from this point on? It's obvious when he gets out of prison, he's still going to be a young guy. He's still going to be under 40. He could still get his crap together and do the things he has to do. And it's going to be interesting to see. I just thought I'd put this out there, people. Tell me what you think right underneath here. And please tell me what you think. Tomorrow, we have a very big video coming out on somebody. All new stuff that nobody knows about on somebody. And we're going to be releasing a video tomorrow afternoon, most likely, and it's going to be me and Mr. Proctor doing it. We have 2 interviews set up for next week that we're going to be doing, and we'll talk to you about those. So we're going to be very busy here, giving you lots of stuff. With that, I'd like to say thank you. Please sub. If you want to donate, please feel free to donate. There's a heart down here that you can hit for the video, or there's also be down there my Cash App. Besides that, thank you. Please hit the like. The like is very important. Take care, people. Have a nice one.